Welcome to Williams and Bloom Sunday. It is the 28th of January. We are recording this earlier than normal today because it's kind of a busy day. We've got Brock Purdy, David Montgomery, and Charlie Kohler all playing for spots in the Super Bowl. Bloom and I wanted to get this knocked out. He's been traveling. We'll let Bloom tell you what he's been up to all weekend with the We Will Collective. I have been in Ames all weekend. It has been a wild week, and we have a lot to get to. So we wanted to get this out as early as possible today. We are presented, as always, by our friends at the Mechdyne Corporation. We couldn't do anything we do at Cyclone Fanatic without them. MECHDYNE.com. They get applicants from Cyclone Fanatics all the time. They're always looking for Iowa Staters. These are Iowa Staters who created this amazing company. Offices all over the world doing all sorts of things. You can find them at mechdyne.com. Of course, we are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios and presented as always by Cody Road Bourbon. I'm taking some I want to take a bottle of Cody Road over to my buddy, former Iowa State linebacker Adam Carper's house tonight. He's a huge 49ers fan. His boys are obsessed with Brock Purdy, and we're going to go and watch the game out there with them today. So I'll bring some Cody Road over to the Carper's house. How are you today, Bloom? Got your you still up in Okoboji? What are you
I'm
up
now
to?
in beautiful Armstrong at my
Ah, yes.
in-laws, and I think I'm in my wife's old bed right now, which is kind of weird. So again,
Ooh,
yeah, hey,
yeah.
wonder what happened here. No,
With at the use last night, did you? Celebrating the Cyclones? Yeah, yeah.
I've got I've got Mickey Mouse, my kid's Mickey Mouse, and my dog with me here. So yeah, not too much excitement, but wow, what a day! What a day
Mm,
up at Hilton
mm.
Coliseum. I Of all times that I did not exactly plan great, we did a little fundraiser get together here in Okoboji for the Okoboji Winter Games. To not be at Hilton was kind of a bummer, but it looked great on TV. Man, did it look great!
I just got done watching the game back, and we'll talk about that. Uh, there's so much to get in. There's so many tentacles of like different storylines to get to. We'll do our Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment too. As I told you a week ago, Brent, after the TCU win that really surprised us all without Taman Lipsy, I said if Iowa State goes 2-0 this week, I think we are going to have a conversation about what it takes to win the league at this point. And we're there, so we'll kind of get into that. There's all the basketball. There's the Spygate crap with Kansas State that is just completely taken on a life of its own. I can't believe it's Sunday after that game Wednesday, and like this is still a thing. But here we are.
I've got
We'll
some
start
thoughts. I've got some thoughts.
good. And I've probably given too many. Like I think my whole like objective journalist cap is completely screwed by now, but that's fine. You all know where I stand. I've never tried to pretend that I'm anything, but I'm not. But my Jerome Tang, he's quickly like in the Dabo Sweeney category for me with coaches now, and it's completely catered in a week because I really liked the guy, and then like here we are. We'll get into all that. I do want to focus on the actual game. Is I told you on Thursday we did Williams and Bloom Wednesday, Thursday this week that I thought Hilton was reaching a new level. I'm not going to say that was the best Hilton I've ever seen because there's been that's I haven't had the time to go back. There's been so many awesome. That was top three. That was a top
Hmm.
three atmosphere I've ever experienced at Hilton Coliseum yesterday. Coach Ott said in the post game that I think I'm not trying to mess with it. I think he said that's the best atmosphere I've ever seen. And he's
Wow.
been to almost exactly as many games as I have in that building. The just the whole Iowa State's wideout deal was perfect. The fans listened. The way Iowa State handled the students, letting them get in there about 2 hours before the game after they camped. Well done, Iowa State. Iowa State's marketing crushed pregame. I thought the pregame atmosphere was the best. The ability that they have, like they got this like 5 years ago to like dim the lights and do all that, like really adds to it, I think. And having Bill Raftery and Jay Wright sitting on the court for a pregame show is like a
Yeah.
totally different feel. It was a special day, even before tip off. And then the again, I just got done watching it. I watched it back for the first time. The second half of that game is as good as you'll see in college basketball all year. Shot for shot, heavyweight fighters. I know that's a cliche.
Yeah.
There were so many times, I think Kansas is out of it, and then Dickinson, and they come hitting you back, and then you're thinking, oh, Iowa State, here it comes. Here comes the nut punch, and then boom, Keyshawn Gilbert goes and makes a crazy play. It was a pleasure and an honor to be able to sit and cover that game yesterday. I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it looked so good on TV, and I agree. Man, the quality of broadcast, and it's nothing against ESPN, it's just a matter of dedicated resources that CBS
Oh,
had
totally
versus one of
different world.
those ESPN Plus. It was totally like I thought that was the neat part is the exposure, and actually it's great for me to just watch it too. I wish I was there clearly, but the quality of that looked across the country of I thought the whiteout looked great. Is this the first time that the Iowa State fans had like a greater than 90% participation
They were
rate?
fantastic.
Way,
We
way to
don't do
go.
that well at Iowa
We
State,
do
and
not.
yeah,
And then, but just right from the get go, and Raftery just brings in, and Ian Eagle's one of my favorite play by play guys too. So I was loving the game for multiple reasons, but the game itself, it was Iowa State shot great, but needed every single one of them. I give Kansas a lot of credit. I thought, Iowa State gets up 11-12 in that second half. It might just go run away and hide. And Dickinson kept making plays from that point center position, which was super impressive. I mean, their five are really good. Their problem is they just don't have much beyond that.
no.
And Iowa State hits 14 of 33s, and yet you needed every one. Maybe one of my favorite plays, I think that one will go down, is that Keyshawn Gilbert up to nails the three as the shot clock's winding down, and he had the biggest smile on his face. I was so happy for that kid because it's just like, man, this is why you go play at Iowa State in a big game like this. It was awesome.
And he's come a long way too. He was the one guy going into Big 12 play. I think you and me were both a little bit like, okay, let's just wait and see how this. We thought he would be really good in March, right? But he clearly needed to get more playing time at this level, and he has. I should have done the math. I apologize, but like his rebounding numbers, his turnovers are down. He's really a much more complete basketball player than the guy that we saw. Definitely the guy that we saw in Orlando, but the one that even we saw just a couple weeks ago. Like he's come a really long way. Really happy for him. He's a crazy defender. That we knew that that's what they thought, but it's one thing to do it in the non-con Brent, but he's doing it now against Big 12 competition, and his offense isn't dropping off, which you see that a
Right.
lot too, right? Where these guys you're the defender and you're chasing somebody around constantly. Keyshawn just keeps getting better. Lipsy's a warrior. He's playing 70% right now, but
Yeah.
this bye week or whatever you want to call it
Will
will
be
be
great.
really good for him. Yesterday was the Trey King game though. Like
Yeah. No, that's true.
Trey hadn't done much. He had been in foul trouble the previous two games in those wins. And I mean, what happened, and Bill Self commented on this after the game, is Iowa State scouted him really well and thought they would put Dickinson on him. Dickinson's pretty slow to get out there, and my amateur analysis of this is that Trey's a decent 3-point shooter, but he's got a slow release. And if you've got a 3 or a 4 on Trey, it's hard for him to. So it's why this is just. I didn't watch him play at Eastern Kentucky, but I'm assuming the slower release isn't as that big of a deal at that level. So he made like 30-some% from 3 as a sophomore or whatever he was there.
Yep.
And then when another team's going to play him at the 5, I think a 5 on him. I think Iowa State's going to be okay to pop him out there and let him shoot. And he hits 4 yesterday. It was wild.
When you watch him in practice and just in some shoot around stuff, he's a good shooter. Now you're right; he just hasn't had either the opportunity or the confidence to shoot it. He's one of those guys, though. If he makes his first one, it's going to be a good day for him. Very streaky that way, and that was a great sign because he provides enough of an X factor where I mean, you needed him yesterday for sure because Ward and Jones are what they are. They're going to get a lot of baskets at the rim. But when you're playing a Dickinson, he's pretty good down there. He's not good in space. And so I think it was key that Iowa State got that matchup and that Trey took advantage of it because that's what he can do. He is that stretch 4. And, for him to knock down that many shots, I think it really gave the entire team some confidence. And you saw Keyshawn shoot with confidence. Taman knocked down a few. And if Iowa State's going to make 14 of 33s, it's going to win almost every day. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean, that's the thing is like you had to do it because I thought Kansas did a really nice job of taking care of the ball for the most part. It wasn't as if they were completely sped up by Iowa State. Harris did a nice job of handling things. I'll say though the key stretch for me, other than the game winner and early when Trey makes a couple shots, was at halftime. It's tie game coming out of halftime. Taman hits a three, and then right next ensuing position goes down, gets a steal and a layup, and all of a sudden it goes from 1 to what was that 7-6 right away, and it just felt like Iowa State was in fairly comfortable control. Now Kansas
Yeah.
did make it interesting, but you never really felt that oh no, Kansas is going to go take the lead here. Iowa State was able to keep them at arm's length from there because you had guys making shots, and I thought Curtis Jones was great again in the second half. So now the great thing is this isn't these one-offs. You've seen Jones do it multiple games, Gilbert do it multiple games, Lipsy do it multiple games. Momcilovic again had a couple daggers. If you get Trey to do that, and this offense goes from okay to probably pretty good. And you're starting to see the rise in the KenPom numbers, and we've talked about it all along. If you want to make a deep run in March, I think this Iowa State team realistically can. We'll talk about it here. You need to be top 50 in offense and defense in KenPom, and I think as of this morning, seed up Iowa State was like 51st. So you're
52.
52. So
Yep.
you're starting to climb, and even when things got a little bit hectic again in the second half in the half court, you're able to lean on a Trey King or a Keyshawn Gilbert getting to the rim, which definitely helps because you don't have to rely always on that three ball or Taman just crashing in there.
Yeah. Good points on the offense. And just to me, the biggest difference in this team is, I mean, clearly there's just more talent all the way around. You haven't had a Momcilovic or whatever, but the bigs, right? Like the last couple of years, it's like if you get one big in foul trouble, it's you're kind of screwed. And even like last year, it's like Oshun he had some really nice games, but he was fairly unreliable. You just didn't
Correct.
really know exactly what you're going to get on a day-to-day basis. But now, with I think what Curtis or what Robert Jones is, and he's a much better player than he was the last 2 years. But now you have Ward.
Yes.
Just a total game changer. Like he completely changes the makeup of Iowa State's team, not only as a rim protector, but offensively. You're just getting, 6 to 10 easy points, and he's a good free throw shooter. I made the comment to Andrew Logue yesterday, who was sitting next to me, and it's weird at the end of a game. It's like, I think I want Iowa State's bigs at the free throw line, sans Robert Jones, but King and Ward are like your best free throw shooters. You throw Curtis Jones in there as well. But that's where, like, to me, it just makes the biggest difference when you get with a heavyweight like Kansas, Iowa State.
Doubt.
It's not like this deal where you're screwed matchup wise. Like you can actually put bodies out there to match up with these dudes, and it really, really showed true yesterday against Dickinson, who was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot yesterday. I want to give a shout out to Pete Link and the strength and conditioning staff.
Yes.
You think about games with Kansas in the past, they always have that monster big that can just dominate Iowa State. Look what Embiid did to Iowa State. But you had Jameel McKay or whoever it was guarding Embiid, or I'm trying to even go back then, but I thought Iowa State's bigs were just as physical as Dickinson, and Dickinson is as good as it gets. He was getting some stuff in the post C-dub, but a lot of his stuff was, playing from that point center position or making some jump shots. It wasn't like it was easy in there. And I think the job that Ward, Jones, and King do on the interior, and even Momcilovic, I've been just wowed by his ability in the last month to be physical and rebound and stick his nose in there, which is a hard thing to do for a freshman. Iowa State won that game in large part, obviously the three ball, but in the weight room because you had grown men in Ward, Jones, and King that were just as physical as anybody else Kansas was throwing out there. In fact, more physical. And that's why I think this Iowa State team has a really high ceiling. Is it has proven now in the last month it can play any style and be successful at it. I mean, Kansas wanted to wear him down a little bit, and Ward, Jones, and King held their own. Dickinson was great. I agree, but he's going to be great. You just need to have the talent to counter. Now you've seen Iowa State do it against really physical teams like TCU, like Houston, like Kansas. Nobody's going to bully Iowa State, unlike those Hoiberg teams where occasionally you'd run into a team who's like, nope, don't have it. They're just bigger, stronger. And if we're not making 18 threes, it's not going to matter, where this team doesn't need that.
Last note I had on this game in particular, I thought for the first time in Big 12 play, specifically, Momcilovic was scouted really well. Self was not going to let him win that game
Yes.
for Iowa State, and but that so Milan is off in the first half. He comes out. I think he hit 3 threes in the second half alone. Like, to me, that's just a big growth game where it's like, where do we want to see Momcilovic be in March? And he's going to get a lot better from that game. Kansas is a really good defensive team. Self and his staff may be the best in the game.
Yep.
And their game plan was to take Iowa State's freshmen out. And they weren't really successful. They were for 20 minutes, and then Milan, he grew yesterday. And that's really, I mean, what's the point of these games? It's like, well, you got to get to the dance, right? You got to get there, and then you start playing for seeding. But it's also, you're still trying to get better. And he, I was impressed that he just keeps his head down and makes some really important shots down the stretch for Iowa State. But I made that note when I was watching that. It was very clear that Bill Self was not going to let 22 beat them in the first half. And shout out to the freshman.
Yeah, and that's why Self's honestly the GOAT. Like, he is so good. He does a couple things really well in that he'll scout you. They run great stuff, and then he gets really good players to play hard. I thought it was funny on Twitter, all the Iowa State fans, because then Self was doing the juicy or laughing at the juicy wiggle cop guy. I think people are starting to realize, man, this guy's really hard to dislike, even though we kind of do dislike him.
I love him,
but he is really good. And, credit to Milan, because, when you play good defenders, and Kevin McCullough had the assignment for a good portion of that game, he may be the best defender in the Big 12. I think Taman, Lipsy would have an argument, but McCullough's 6'5", 6'6", so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, different.
But Milan, when the moment was there, he made it. And now you've seen that in multiple games where he has struggled a little bit trying to find it, but when it was there, he delivers. And so that gives you a lot of excitement for he's only going to get better. I was thinking about this yesterday. It's been exactly 2 months since that tournament in Orlando. How much better is Iowa State since then? Getting Ward back is huge.
Different deal.
But yeah, if you think now we've got 8 weeks until March Madness, how much more growth can this Iowa State team have? And so that's what you're excited is. Like, you still see, you saw Iowa State make 14 threes. Again, not going to do that every day. But if Gilbert and Jones and Milan and Taman can all shoot it with a little more confidence, get Trey out there, this Iowa State team, I legit think with the way it guards and the way it's rebounding, is, they're not going to beat Houston 10 times out of 10, but on a neutral floor in a crazy game, why not? And I think Houston is head and shoulders. Them and Connecticut are the two best teams. I would, but I don't think Iowa State's too far off from that top 10 tier. I really don't.
Shout out to our friends at Terraplex Ag. You can visit them at terraplexag.com. We are going to be doing Williams and Blum Wednesday live from the Iowa Power Farming Show coming up this Wednesday. If you are going to be there, I know a lot of farmers listen to the program. We will be at booth 3300.
Yes.
Booth 3300. We will be there doing our show live. As long as the internet allows us to. We are planning on doing, regardless, we're going to have video and stuff to repost the show, but we are planning on doing it live. And then we're going to be at their customer appreciation event at Buzzard Billy's after that. So we will be, if you guys are out and about, you've heard us talk about our friends from Terraplex Ag. They've got locations in Odebolt, Casey, and Pella. We are going to be there with them all afternoon at the Iowa Power Farming Show. Again, that's this Wednesday, booth 3300. You can come and shake our hands and take a picture, whatever you guys want to do. But we will be doing our show live from the Terraplex Ag booth on Wednesday.
And before that, C-Dub, Jalen Knoll and Rocco Bechter are going to be down there on Tuesday. Got them a little NIL deal thanks to Terraplex to go meet the folks at the Power Farming Show. So they're going to be there, I think, Tuesday from, I think it was 3 to 5 or 4 to 6, somewhere that afternoon. I'll post that on the on the old interwebs to let people know where they'll be, and I'll
Cool.
make sure to promote them because the Terraplex Ag people are just wonderful to work with, and man,
They're awesome.
it's kind of it's been fun to see them catch on as much as they have.
Yeah, they're awesome. Their drone technology is what they do. I know you guys have heard us talk about them before, but yeah, if you're a farmer, you're going to be there in Des Moines this week. Come by and say hello to us as we do our show. Also, want to give a shout out to our buddy Colin Newell Insurance with Farm Bureau Financial Services. He insures both me. He's saving me $1,000 this year in 2024, $1,000, and I'm getting better coverage across the board. You guys should be saving your money too. I know we actually got him another customer this week. I
Nice.
gave his contact information out to somebody else. And last but certainly not least, our friends at the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State. Dean Spalding is our good buddy. I need to get him back on a podcast now that Bitcoin is back over 40,000. Got some smack talk to do with my buddy Dean Spalding. Did you speak to the Ivy College of Business this week, or is that still coming?
No, I did
Yeah,
on Wednesday.
how'd that go?
Marketing 495. No, they're going to help.
Oh wow, they let you speak to a 400 level.
400,
class.
yeah.
Holy
so they're going to
mackerel.
do. We're hiring them on a freelance, but very very reasonably priced. But the groups, there's 20 kids in this class. It's like 4 groups of 5. Or did I say that? Anyway, and they are going to do some consulting for us, market research of how do we get the word out with the We Will Collective. So with the tight budget that we have, we're going to lean on those expert marketing students, and man, they already have a couple of really good ideas. So I'll keep you posted as that goes. It's a pretty cool partnership of the ways that this all can work together with some great people at Ivy.
We'll get to Tang-gate here in a minute. I do want to try and sell some tickets to our event coming up on the 7th at Toast in Ankeny. I will be the MC. Matt Campbell and his entire coaching staff will be there. The origin of this party, it's just funny how it's taken on this like new deal. Like this party started in 2004.
Yep.
I want to say the first ever. It was then the Cyclone Nation recruiting party with like Chris Ash and Tony Alford, and I think it was just Ash and Alford that may have been there the first year at the old 3-bag downtown. We had like 15 fans show up to this thing. It's like me and Steve Dace, and like it was wild. Like it was Dace's idea, like to have, because this is back when National Signing Day was like a holiday for all of us,
right?
And we'd bring a DVD of all the guys.
Literally, it was a DVD.
Yeah, it was literal DVD, and then we'd play it on the big screen. It was awesome though, because then like Chris Ash would just walk us through every recruit and break it down, and it was like really geeky recruiting stuff. Do this for a while. We took some years off during the Chiswick years because they were not willing to participate. Come back, Paul Rhodes, same type of deal. I think I had like Shane Burnham and whoever come the first year, and then Rhodes was like, "I'll bring my whole staff,
bring the whole crew."
So then it turns into this like giant drinking party at the keg stand where like Tom Herman is just going crazy, and like and it was fun. It was some of the most fun times I've ever had doing Cyclone Fanatic were these recruiting parties. They're not really called that anymore because it's weird because the National Signing Day moving, it's changed everything, but we still have kept the tradition going, and now we've kind of handed it off to you guys. We will. I'm glad that I appreciate you letting me MC it. Keep me feel like I'm at least a little bit involved still. But these are so much fun, and this year's party is going to be the best one yet. And we really want to sell this thing out because everything's going back to the collective, and I know enough to be dangerous about how much post players cost. And I watch this Iowa State basketball team, and all of the 24-year-old post players are going to be gone. And I know that if you want Iowa State to be good again next year, it's going to take a hell of an off season. Not just that, but then the football deal. It's like I don't think Campbell and his staff could have done a better job than what they did to keep all of these guys, and you and your staff, Bloom. I think Matt and like guys like Hoosier and they all deserve so much credit because the Iowa State guys aren't making as much money, but they're
True.
constantly being recruited to stay, and it's all relationships. And man, like this party is going to go a long way to funding all of the above. So let's get people out there, Bloom. Anything else you want to
Like,
add to that?
no, that's very well said. And I think just more than anything, it's being able to thank the coaches and the players who did choose to stick around. So we'll have, I think,
Yeah, who all the
15.
players are coming, right? A bunch of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, we'll have 15 to 18 players there. But and then not to mention,
Football players.
yes, football players. Yep.
Yes.
And then the neat part is we've actually had probably a couple dozen former football players sign up as well that are in the area. So it's not only seeing the players and coaches, but there'll be some dignitaries from years past too. And you're right. We're just trying to hold down the fort until all this stuff gets regulated. And it's expensive. It's $250 per ticket, but you get a great meal. You
Not
get
that
some
expensive.
one of a kind opportunities. We've got some special things planned that you won't want to miss that I don't want to reveal just yet. And trust me, you will have a blast. And not to mention, get a run into the Chris Williams while you're there too, which is
When I
which is
say
worth
it's
it.
not that expensive too, I'm pointing out that other schools are doing similar things with much, much higher price tags. I'm
Yeah,
not scoffing at $250
no,
to anybody out there,
absolutely.
but I know what a party like this at Kansas even costs.
Right, and
And
that's and again, we're not dealing with this on our own. It's if it was up to me, everyone could get in free. We just need
yeah.
to raise money to stay competitive. And again, nobody loves the current situation. It is what it is. I think thanks to the Cyclone Nation, we've held our own so far. Getting the big fella from Princeton, kudos to everybody
Yes,
for that
let's
win. Jalen Travis is going to
let's
be
talk about
awesome.
that real and then we'll
Yeah,
get into
but it's
Tang-gate.
but that's where all this stuff, honestly, C-Dub, I'm watching the game yesterday, and this is the football recruiting party. It all goes together because high tide rises all boats type of situation. So the more we raise at this football recruiting party, the more it will impact our entire budget, on and on and on. But I'm watching the game, and you've got Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert, who would not have been here without people's support of the collective. And now
Yeah.
look at them. I mean, it's honestly, it's that simple. I don't want to. It's real. And then without TJ and all those things are all part of it, but they weren't going to come for free. So this is where this all starts and ends, and you can really help impact what's going on the floor and on the field. And it's not going to be a forever thing, but for now it is the climate. And so would love to sell that thing out. I think we have like 100 tickets still available, so there's plenty of space. And again, once you're there, you will have a blast. I guarantee it.
And I would also add, if you're more wealthy, if you want to do more, buy a ticket for somebody else and bring them who
Well,
may not have the opportunity to do it.
so that's the other thing that you could do again for some of you out of state folks. If you wanted to quote unquote buy a ticket, but then send me a note that you want somebody to
Yeah.
fill your figure, just let me know because we can find people. Whether it be college kids or
Former
recent
players would
college
love to
grads,
do it.
former
Some can't afford to
exactly.
go, but they'd love to
And
be
that's
there.
that would be lean on first is the former players who
Yeah.
could get in the room as well. So my goal is to just announce a really big number at this thing, so the coaches that are in attendance, the players that are in attendance, realize the power of Cyclone Nation in one night.
All right, that's coming up on February the 7th at
Yep,
Toast in
we
Ankeny.
will.
Last year was a hell of a time, and looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, tickets at wewillcollective.com. Hard to miss.
All right, God, Tang-gate. So Thursday,
It's
I knew this was
it's getting worse.
well, I knew this was going to happen on Thursday. I just was waiting for some sort of a leak to come out of Manhattan. We thought we knew what it was, and I swear to God to our listeners, Iowa State had not told me anything. Okay, I knew the only reason when we met on Thursday, and I knew anything that was going on, is because I rewatched the video like 15 times, and it's Tang acting like he has a cell phone pointing up. I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this thing out. We knew.
Correct.
And Iowa State was kind of like, we're just going to let it die, whatever. And, Thursday, Friday come around, Kellis Robinette from the Star, who's a good reporter. I don't blame him for anything in this. He's doing exactly what you're supposed to do and trying to find out why the coach of the beat he covers was acting like a goddamn maniac. Like it, right? And like why an
I
assistant
don't
coach
blame the reporter at all. I would
No,
ask the
he's
same
trying to figure
question.
why was that assistant
What is he
coach
doing?
cussing at managers? Like what in the hell was going on?
What's going on?
And we didn't really know. So it starts to leak. Kansas State's on 3 guy, I had like 15 people screenshot this to me, is now leaking at that point on like Friday that Oklahoma State is involved, and it's this big conspiracy that Iowa State's got this whole
Houston also. Or,
yeah.
like, okay.
Oh, was Houston in that too?
I think
Okay,
so.
I had so they're on 3 guys is putting stuff on a message board, and it's starting to get around, and I'm starting to feel around Iowa State. It's like, are you guys going to do anything? And I think rightfully they're focused on Kansas, kind of a big game coming up on Saturday. I get wind of it on Saturday morning that Otzelberger is going to make some sort of statement after the game. I'm really glad Iowa State won because I felt like it meant more to be able to go up there. But I do know that he was going to do it either way because he was pretty pissed off about the accusations. I know Jamie Pollard was pretty pissed off. He gave a statement to Seth Davis. And I am admittedly biased. I know I'm an Iowa State guy. I don't think Otz could have been better in his addressing this.
Yeah.
I love it. It was just matter of fact. He went up there and he dropped the effing mic. And this whole thing, like, to me, it's like if Kansas State just went about it in all the wrong ways, if they truly thought this, then show some proof and go through the Big 12, right? Instead of this innuendo and leaking stuff to reporters. And like clearly they're leaking it to multiple guys. I'm telling you, like, for the audience who's out there, why Iowa State was we're not like this stuff doesn't this on 3 guy and like that, it doesn't just happen.
They don't just make it up. They're
correct.
Texting their people.
Yeah, and it's being leaked to them, and it's almost worse, right? Like in a deal like that whole deal was so sloppy though, from King McClure. He deserves some blame here. If you go back and watch that game, King, who played for Jerome Tang at Baylor, and I think King's just a young broadcaster. He probably didn't know any better, and he'd probably try and do it different now. But he's on there saying, "Oh, I know Jerome Tang, and he would not be acting like this unless something terrible happened." I'm paraphrasing what King said. But it's insinuating like that, like something racial and then Derek Young, they're on 3 guy, tweets that people are throwing stuff at the bench. Like that didn't happen. Like and like all this stuff it was just so sloppily handled from the beginning. And I think by Saturday night, TJ and Iowa State had just had enough, which led to that very strong statement. I hope this thing can be behind everybody. I'm hoping it will be, but I guarantee the date that Iowa State has in Manhattan. If you want to buy up some tickets to those, I think the team's probably going to need it because this rivalry is here to stay.
Well, you had Tang retweeting about, hey, we'll see you on the whatever that is, the 6th or the 9th in Manhattan. And he had his sister tweeting for him, like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The sister was, and she was insinuating racism stuff.
Well, she said the people in Iowa are terrible. Was basically what she said. It's just like, come on now, like the only facts of this whole thing came from you, and that is because you tweeted it right away. You were right there. That was the staff, the Kansas State staff was calling the Iowa State student managers near their huddle cheating MFers, right?
Yes.
That's the only facts we have. And so, now you're seeing the Kansas State social media posse all circle the wagons of, oh, Jerome Tang didn't accuse anything. It's like, no, the staff member literally called the student managers cheating MFers. So that alone is like, okay, you better be right about that because that's pretty strong.
And for what it's worth, too, I know
managers of doing that.
I wasn't alone in seeing that because there were a couple of people who were in the stands who were videotaping that assistant coach just stammering around. I've never seen an assistant coach act like it was. Maybe that's a common thing with that staff. Usually assistant coaches are like backup quarterbacks. Keep your mouth shut during the game. We don't need you to be a distraction. You're there to butter up the referee after the head coach,
goes after him.
You're there to pump up the team. This guy was like super mad the whole time, and it was it was really, really bizarre. But then you made the point on Thursday, and I saw Jeff Goodman made the point. I really like Jeff. He does a great job. Um, like even if okay, like there's really no advantage to be gained. Like I still don't understand what Kansas State thought was happening. Okay, so they thought there was a videotape, but how is that giving Iowa State any sort of an advantage? It like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
okay, so what was next? They thought that they were texting the bench. Like it's really, really, really bizarre just how everything played out.
Yeah, what I heard, their claim was it was a relay game, that there was like kids or whatever young adults behind the bench that were relaying something to the managers near you, who are then relaying it to the staff on the other end of the floor.
I
It's like, how
I
in the world?
I sit next to those kids, and they are kids. They're like sophomores in college, which is another unfortunate part of all this. They're
Right,
unpaid.
right.
I sit with them every game. Okay. One of them has a whiteboard. He's charting something. It's some defensive like nutty thing that TJ and his that doesn't even matter, but these
Like
coaches
tips and
think everything.
steals and
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever. And the other one is literally sitting there with a mop. They have a whiteboard and they're not managers can't have cell phones. Did you know that?
No, I
Like
did
it's
not know that.
actually against the rules. You cannot have a cell phone if you're part of they don't have them.
Is that an
So
Iowa
like
State rule?
no, I think it's just a rule. Like
Rule?
you
Okay.
don't see coaches that their cell phones are all in the locker room.
Well, that's
I
yeah.
think
You don't
it's
ever
like
see. Yeah.
yeah, you don't ever see guys checking their phones like on the bench because they're not
Right.
supposed to have them
It's not
there.
supposed to have them. Yeah.
I'm telling you, like the thing is preposterous.
It's completely. That's why it's like when I saw the national stories start coming out, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to end up really bad for Jerome Tang, because the allegations are not. And now you can't backtrack and say, oh well, we didn't claim anything. Yes, you did. You were at midcourt
Yeah, you
telling
called them
TJ,
racist. You said they
yeah,
were
that they've
throwing
got a
stuff. Now
phone.
you're calling them cheaters. You said a
Yeah,
lot of things,
a lot of
guys.
things. You can't just say, oh, our bad. No, I mean, it's just very frustrating. I'm glad Iowa State won, because that allowed, I think, some validation of no, maybe Iowa State's just pretty good here. Jerome and scouts really well. I mean, the crazy thing was, I don't remember what article it was, the Robinette one or maybe it's the On Three. They said Iowa State knew their stuff coming out of timeouts. It's like, that's called scouting.
Yeah, everybody
Congrats.
does that.
What you have people chopping up tape all the time. Like good.
They're
That was like good for
insane.
TJ. Good for TJ
These
that he's just amazing.
guys, I've tried telling you all for years. These coaches are not normal humans. Okay, like the amount of work that they put in. Like they're already so they play Baylor on Saturday and then I think Texas. They're already scouting Texas. Like that it's
Oh
just
yeah.
they they're really good at what they do. And the Kansas State thing is I think unfortunate only in the sense, and it depends on how you look at this. I always thought that was like a fun, friendly rivalry just across the board, the whole Farmageddon
Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
it's straight nasty now. And maybe that's good. I
Th-
just wonder if I don't think Tang can keep his mouth shut, to be honest. The
Well, then
the
he went
thing
off
he did with
on
the
the
official
yeah
yesterday.
yesterday. He said he
So he's
wasn't
calling
acting like
officials
an
by
adult.
name.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. Like I wonder what's going on there. If it had to do with like, because to a man, like every Kansas State fan will sit there and tell you he's the greatest dude ever, and like I believe he puts that on, and I don't think he's like a bad human, but he's on a really weird stretch here, and I can
Well,
promise you this: these officials, the more I watch TJ, the more I truly buy into his like they're human beings. Don't make them look bad. Like don't show them up. Be respectful, and you're going to get better calls down the stretch. Bloom, I can only imagine after what Tang did yesterday, calling out this guy by name, in the way that he did, and
and
I
who
won't.
Gary Maxwell, who's been around for 30 years, by the way.
That doesn't help you down the road though
No,
with officials, does it?
no, and honestly, that's why he got the T on Wednesdays. He and the assistant coach just would not stop chirping the entire game, and I honestly think it got to the point where Kelly Self and Jerry Pollard were like, "All right, dude, enough is enough. Like this little thing, like, you get away with it if you're Bill Self because you've been around for 20, 25 years. Jerome Tang's in year 2 as a head coach. And it's like, you haven't earned it yet, pal. And this is not going to help your cause. And, honestly, I put myself in, let's say we're John Kurtz or the On3 guys. Do you just blindly support your guy, even absent any type of evidence there, just because he's your guy? I mean, that says a little bit about kind of where we're at a bigger picture. We've seen
It's a
if you are going with
societal
that.
thing.
But it's like, would we do the same thing? Like if TJ just went rogue and went after, like, would you just have to defend him just because he's your guy? I don't know. I think that's kind of sad if we're at that place. But that's old guy me right here.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I was kind of thinking the same thing. It's like that's where I'm like, if I'm Jerome Tang, it's like if you had that, then do it the right way because it's just hearsay.
Yeah,
And
file a complaint. Say,
I
hey,
just don't understand why they would be critical of Otzelberger defending himself and his program the way that he did. Like you have to. Like this had become. You have Seth Davis on CBS's pregame show talking about it. You had right like
Barstool. It was on Barstool. It was on SI. It was
people are comparing you to Jim Harbaugh and Connor Stallions. Like you have to say something. And I don't
because what people the casuals don't know, like, you can't really steal signs in basketball, but the insinuation is you're cheating to get an advantage. And that's, if I'm reading a headline, I don't like to think through it. Then when you think through and go, wait a second, that's not possible. How do you steal signs in basketball when it's just, the whole thing is asinine. And I'm glad Iowa State went 2-0 this week and actually has the week off, so they can, hopefully that thing can die down by the time Iowa State goes to Waco on Saturday.
I also thought I couldn't help but laugh because I know about how close TJ and Bill Self are. And
I'm sure they had a discussion. Yeah.
Watch. You know what? And I backed off, but you tell me if I did the right thing or not. So first of all, to finish what I was saying, watching those two embrace for like 10 seconds before the game, cover their mouths, and they're laughing hysterically.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd love to know what was said there.
Oh, I think we can guess.
Because it's funny too, because it's just driving the Kansas State people mad watching Bill Self and Iowa State be all cuddled up with one another like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you had that, and I almost asked Bill Self, and I didn't do it. I probably should have, thinking back, but I wanted to see what he thought about it. I didn't do it because I thought, out of fairness to this guy, his team just lost. He had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
is that an unfair question? I thought through it and thought it would be unfair to ask him in front of all the people. If I could have pulled him on the side, I think I would have. But I would love to. I really wish I would have asked Bill Self what he thought about that thing.
Well, I think as we get, I'd just be interested in college coaches in general. Like, what advantage could possibly be gained here? And is this a thing? Maybe it's a thing and we don't even know. Like, I know. Listen, it's competitive. You are trying to get every single advantage you can.
No doubt.
I mean, that, and from you and I traveling with the team, we know they are analyzing film nonstop. They will get on a plane and chop up a game right afterwards. Like, this is what they do. They have people advanced scouting weeks in advance trying to cut up every single play. You will know every action the other team is running before the game starts. That's what well-prepared staffs do. But where is the line where it's unethical or illegal in basketball? I really don't know that, because they said they exchanged tape. It's all digital now. Everybody, tape. But you have a guy. That's what you do. It's all charted on Synergy. You can break down every single play anytime you wanted, and you can see the coach signals when he's coaching. Or, Chris, maybe they'll do the horns. The horn, is that stealing? If I know you're going to run the horns action, I mean, I know when that happens. Like,
I don't think
football's
that is
different.
Like
Football's different because there is, it's just not. It's not all in the open, like for football, as it is in basketball. I'm confused as to what advantage can really be gained. The only thing I can think of is maybe you'll get something for next game.
Yeah.
But even then, what are you seeing 5 rows deep through a huddle? And it's
loud.
And it's loud. Or you can't hear anything. I just,
whatever it is, I will give Kansas State the benefit of doubt right here. Okay, whatever went down, I think they truly believed it
Yeah,
because I
100%.
saw with. I don't think this is like, oh, we're gonna try and create this story. Like
Nope.
they
I
truly believed what they thought. I physically watched them move their huddle
Yep.
during that game from the beginning. So like it was wild.
Yeah.
Like
I don't think it that's the thing. So I saw, oh, he's trying to distract from no, I think they legit think that Iowa State was doing something um illegal, or I don't even know, stealing. But it's like I'm just trying to put two and two together, and I love basketball. I've never heard of somebody accusing somebody of stealing signs. I don't understand that. Anyway,
bizarre. Just a
Tang-gate.
really just a hey, I gotta Tang's got to get his sister off of Twitter too. By the way, like
Oh,
she is
oof.
this gal. I mean, she's very passionate about her brother, and
She loves her
I give
brother.
her. But sometimes
Yeah.
when you're that close, it's best to just back off because you like it
Yeah.
negatively impacts
We
your loved one, and
we had
she was
yeah.
calling people racist, and like it was a bad deal the other night.
We had a couple people reach out and said, "Hey, we know Jerome Tang's a good guy." We had somebody was at K State and a young person passed away and he went out of his way. It's like I'm sure, like this is
I
not
don't doubt that.
Jerome Tang as a person. It's
No,
it's just trying. It's just you got to be. It's I thought Iowa State was put in a really unfair situation of having to deal with that when there's really nothing that they could really defend themselves with other than say, I mean, get a formal complaint. I guess I don't know. It was just it was a tough spot that got too much run entirely Friday and into Saturday.
the problem was again that I think some people why didn't Iowa State or I, I think Iowa State was like, well, what are we going to gain by talking about this after the game? So both coaches are like, hey, let's just squash it.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm just guessing Tang was like, well, I can't prove it. There's nothing I can do. I think that him and Otzelberger have some mutual respect. What does TJ gain by going on a press conference and saying, well, they accuse us of cheating? The problem is our media cycle and
Yeah.
what you're saying about all of us fan site guys. I'll throw us into the mix. We are Cardinal and Gold guys. Like I've
Yep.
never once, but the problem is there's no rational thoughts. There's no nuance to conversations, and I freaking knew it when Kellis put out that story. And again, I do not blame him. He's one of the good ones. He does his job well. I knew when that story came out, this is going to
It's
get
gonna go nuts.
aggregated. And
Yep.
do not text me or tweet me a Sports Illustrated link and claim that it's real, guys. They do some research. It's not a real journalism place anymore. They don't do the big boy stuff anymore. AI is writing half of those things. Okay.
Yep.
So, but the problem is they're really good at SEO. And then that starts spreading around. And then Barstool picks it up. And then it is completely out of control. And you have no choice, public relations wise, but to nip this thing in the bud.
Yeah,
So
I thought I was I'm glad Jamie just didn't make a statement or anything. He just went right to Seth Davis. He knew it would get play on national television, and most importantly, Iowa State won the game. And it's just like, all right,
yeah,
now we can talk about basketball. And the issue, and again, it's big picture. People just like being right, dunking on other people on the internet, and so you're not gonna. And this, I totally realize this because I'd be in the same boat. K State's not gonna all of a sudden all their guys are gonna be like, oh yeah, you're right, sorry, our bad. No, you keep doubling down because that's kind of that's kind of what we do nowadays. And so I just hope it goes. Once more games get played and K State loses by 25 to Houston, maybe they'll start worrying about their basketball team.
and I also wanted to just clarify one thing on Otzelberger making the statement about the Kansas State assistant coach. The managers, I know for a fact, told Iowa State after the game what had happened. Like
Okay, so they heard
they
it.
were actually like, you have to realize these are not like, sure, they have the uniform on, and these are young people who, like, imagine yourself being 19 years old and getting cussed out by Kyle Green.
Yeah,
Like just trying
So
to think
what
of
did I
like
do? Yeah,
they had
you
no
feel bad.
idea.
You probably feel bad. Did I do something wrong here?
Yeah,
Or
they
like,
had
yeah,
no idea
yeah.
why they were being implicated in
You feel, yeah,
but again,
yeah.
like I don't think Kansas State was making up their feelings. I think
I
they thought all this stuff like and it coaches are paranoid. I hope that cooler heads can prevail and we can all just enjoy the home stretch of the Big 12.
Well, one thing that I do know, Iowa State is now pick or has the second best odds to win the Big 12 conference.
Okay, let's get into our Whipples Hybrids Big 12 segment then. Perfect segue right there. Plant your independence, plant Whiffles, baby. So that's behind Houston, and Houston has to be one, right?
Yes.
So they still don't like Texas Tech. So we need to do this by Wednesday, Bloom, because Iowa State doesn't have a game until next Saturday. Yep. For Wednesday's show, we need to break down what we think of schedule strength for the contenders the rest of the way. Bill Self talked about this in post game yesterday. I thought it was really good. I haven't looked. I would assume Kansas and Iowa State, or I would assume Kansas has the toughest stretch. And I'll give Travis Hines credit. He's the one who pointed this out to me in post game from the Des Moines Register. Kansas is a little bit like Nebraska football in the sense of like they have to play in the Big Ten West, but then they always have to play Michigan and Ohio State because they're a good TV draw. Because like Kansas is going to be on CBS more, and like CBS doesn't want Central Florida, and like they want the heavy hitters. But I would have a hard time believing Iowa State doesn't have as tough of a road the rest of the way as anyone, though. When you look at who they have to double up with BYU, with Houston, with Kansas State, they got to go back to Manhattan. Oklahoma's in the top 15. Have you done any research on this? And because Self said it does feel different, but he also admitted it's because we're all used to the Big 12 and the way it has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the raw data, I think Iowa State's remaining in the conference is like 6th or 7th most difficult. But it changes so quickly because you're playing each other. The advantage Iowa State does have now is you don't play Kansas again. You don't have to go to the Fog, which is a huge advantage, by the way. And you've got one already in the books with Houston. And so, therefore, you've got some of the hard ones out of the way. You've already gone to BYU. I think BYU is going to be there. Great win for them yesterday over Texas.
Huge win.
TCU going to win in Waco. Great for them. Good for Iowa State. Now that win at TCU looks really good. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if somebody has a significant advantage. I can dive in a little bit, but I don't think you're going to see it, huge one way or another. The good news for Iowa State is I think this break comes at a great time. You're 5-2. You're going to Saturday in Waco, and you're putting yourself in a really good situation to be there towards the end. I do agree Houston should be the favorite, but you did beat them, so you already have that tiebreaker. Now you have to go there in March, and then if you can get to a 12-6, you give yourself a chance, and I think that's the target now. Iowa State's 5-2, and this is kind of playing out how we thought a little bit about in the preseason. Iowa State has been awesome at Hilton Coliseum. They've needed it, and they've been great there. And so you just pick off a couple more road wins, and you can get to 12-6.
Nice to get Texas Tech at home in that one. They're the team that's a little bit weird as far as schedule strength goes.
And they had a nice win yesterday in Norman.
They did. I mean, at what point they're 5-1, 16-3 overall. However, the metrics hate this team still. Yep. But at what point do we take them seriously as a contender? Are we there yet, or do we need to see more?
I think who do they have this week? I mean, I think
I give you they're at TCU on Tuesday. They get Cincinnati at home on Saturday. Man, I just feel like they've got the easiest schedule in the league. Like I'm just going off of they go to Baylor, Central Florida at home. They get Kansas at home. They do have to go to Iowa State, but then they get TCU crossed up. UCF is one of the teams they play twice. They get West Virginia and Oklahoma State still. I mean, if a 5-loss team is going to win the league, like they're going to be in contention. Unless they have a complete colossal meltdown.
Interesting, because their only loss is to Houston on the road where they got buried. But
they've beaten Texas on the road. They've beaten Oklahoma State and Kansas State at home, so those didn't do much for them.
Nope.
But then they've beaten BYU at home and won. At Oklahoma was the win that really.
That's a big win.
Was the eye opener.
Yeah, is Oklahoma kind of fading on us? Like it's hard to know where they're going to be at the end of this deal. I think Tech has definitely put themselves in the conversation. I don't know. I just watched them like, I don't know about them. But hey, the win's a win, and they'll start getting love in the top 25 here as well. I think for Iowa State, this will be interesting. That win over Kansas on CBS got a lot of eyeballs. And so I think what you're going to see is
Top 15.
Iowa State take a big jump here in the rankings.
Yeah.
I mean, now the eye test is starting to match the metrics, and once that happens and you get a marquee win over Kansas, I think you're going to see Iowa State vault into the top 15-ish. But more importantly, C-Dub, you're going to start seeing Iowa State in the 3 and the 4 line for the NCAA tournament. And I pointed this out on Friday, why the win over Kansas is so big. You look at start looking at NCAA tournament sites, right? I mean, it has a big factor into Omaha.
Yeah.
Yep. Omaha's the only one that's really even close to Iowa. The other ones that are kind of close are Memphis again.
Yeah,
which is
I actually thought about that. We're gonna have another party at Lawler's. This is gonna be amazing. We're going back to Jerry. We'll get the same Airbnb. This is gonna be amazing. I love Memphis. I want to live in Memphis.
People are like, Memphis again, and then Indianapolis is the other kind of Midwest one, but that'll be Purdue and probably Wisconsin on lockdown already.
Oh, when I saw Memphis on there, I love Scout. The NCAA tournament's my favorite thing to cover. I love it. It's all day. Just sit in that media room and write stories. Like I just freaking love it. And I was scouting them out, and I saw Memphis, and I was thinking to myself, there's 2 places in the world I want to move to: Memphis and Humboldt. Those are the 2 spots that
very, very similar. But so
I would love to go to Omaha, though. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Especially Mac would probably be there. I would guess that'd be a really
no, they can't. They're the host.
Damn it.
No, so this is great. This is because you're right. They would definitely be a natural. They are the host. They cannot be there. And so if you're a rooting fan for college basketball, you root against Kansas, of course, and you want to root against Marquette and Wisconsin, and those are probably about the main competition for that site. So
incredible.
I think Iowa State has a chance.
You telling fans to book your hotels in Omaha?
I don't know. I mean, maybe get that cancelable one up to 2 weeks in advance. You'll get a better idea. But I think there is a very there is a pathway there where Iowa State would have to be one of the 2 or 3 favorites to go to Omaha. Because you have to be basically a top 4 seed to get preferential location. And I think Iowa State's right on that line.
Hey, speaking of that, so I'm always thinking about like opportunities to meet with our fans and stuff. I got a note from a bar in Kansas City that wants us to host a live show from the Big 12 tournament.
Oh boy.
Would that be something you're interested in? Hey, how about this? We did this last week. If you want us to have some sort of event like this in Kansas City,
we're thinking about doing something for We Will, but we're just trying to figure out what
I have an opportunity.
Okay, here's my problem, fan base. I'd love your reaction. What day do you do it?
Yeah, it's because weird this year.
You could get a double bye, and the women are the week before, and the women could
sucks.
It sucks. The thing, because I was like, I'd love it to do a combo, but it doesn't make sense for fans to be there all week.
You can't. It's impossible. This is going to hurt the women's attendance so bad. Like my heart goes out to them because it's such a great tournament, and I love. Here's an example. So my parents have gone to the Big 12 tournament. I don't know how many years in a row. 10. Ever since it went back to Kansas City.
Yep.
And they buy the whole pass to the women's tournament, and then they go to the men's games when it doesn't impact going to the women's games. And because of this, and they've done that forever. They've spent thousands of dollars in Kansas City on hotels, and they're not even going to Kansas City this year. They said, screw it. They're going to Florida. They're going on a vacation because they just and there's going to be so many people like that, and it sucks. And like the women's thing too, it's like we're having a hard time. Like we're going to cover it because we cover the Cyclones. That's what we do. And Connor's going to be down there with the women, and if they win a couple games, I'll be down there with them. And we are going to do it. But I'm promising you, like, not every media outlet is dedicated in 2024 to what we do like we are. And the women's coverage is going to suck this year. Like the whole thing just sucks. Like I hate it.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
I mean, they do get to play in the big arena, so that's good. And honestly, for Iowa State fans, a day trip to Kansas City isn't terrible, but it's hard to plan. You can't plan for a week in
Well,
Kansas
people have to
City.
work, and
Yeah, I
kids have
know, I
school.
know,
That's the
I
thing.
know.
Like,
I get
my
it.
kids can get down there for the men's tournament because it's during their
Spring break.
break week, but they
Yep,
can't for the women. And my kids would much rather go watch the women's
I
games
know.
than the men's games.
I,
Like, so they're not going to be able to do it now. Like, the whole thing just blows.
and that's why I'm struggling. Of Iowa State could play literally on the men's side Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So then what date do you plan a get together? Because it could
We
be during the
no.
middle. That's hard.
What we do is we work with this bar. I have it all lined up for us,
Okay.
and we just 2 weeks before we'll pull the trigger on something.
All right.
But if you, for real, if
Yeah.
this is something you guys would be interested in, send us a message. We would probably just have this bar like we did down in Memphis for about 2 hours some night and do a live podcast and raise money for the collective, and it could be a cool thing. But this bar in Kansas City reached out to me because
Love it.
they're owned by Iowa State fans, so I thought it could be a cool opportunity. Here I am
Awesome.
telling you our business opportunities on the air as opposed to just sending you a text message. I don't want to shortchange the women, but it was really hard to follow the women yesterday because they were playing at the same time as probably the biggest game of the weekend in men's college, other than the Providence Georgetown game, which was
Yeah.
big for other reasons. I have not got to watch the women yet, Bloom. I will do that today. But it looked like they played really. It looked,
Yeah.
and my dad was telling me about it. They played really hard. They just didn't make enough shots down the stretch. I mean, it seems
I
simple as
I
that,
say
right?
that's fair. Yeah, we had it on at our game watch on the second screen, so I was watching both. Audie was great. Couldn't guard her. I mean, monster. 26 and 15. But see, you turn it over 24 times. Iowa State
Mm,
does, and
that's hard.
then I think West Virginia hit 12 or 13 threes and shot it way better than they normally do. It's actually, I was surprised Iowa State was in the game at the end because you told me, hey, West Virginia is going to make 13 threes. You're going to turn it over 24 times. It's like, oh, game over. Good luck. But they were there all the way to the end. And Iowa State fought, was physical and tough minded, but just not enough shots down the stretch. I think Iowa State was 9 of 28 from three. So a couple different factors. But I think this is the little adversity you knew was going to come to this team, and they got a big one. And I hope everybody gets out to Hilton Wednesday against Oklahoma State, a winnable game. Oklahoma State's pretty good, but Iowa State beat them down there. But this is a game where you need your fan base to rally behind you because you can't really count that TCU game as a win, even though it is technically. You've now, technically, not technically, but you feel like you've lost 3 games in a row because you didn't get to play that TCU game. And so you probably need a little pick me up from the Hilton Magic faithful, and I think Iowa State
No
will get
doubt.
that. And I think this team certainly has still high end possibilities, but they're hitting some adversity for the first time, and let's see how this young group responds to it.
Hey, when you're playing with that many freshmen, this was going to happen at some point. They'll fight through it. I still think it's a tournament team.
I agree, and they played good teams. I mean, that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
you're not just gonna walk through this thing. West Virginia's ranked. You were right there to the wire with them, and Quinterly went nuts. She had 31. Like she was great. So you're gonna lose some games like that, but how do you bounce back? Because what's Iowa State now? 6-3. I mean, you're still in pretty good
Great
shape, all
shape.
things
We would
considered.
have all
And
taken that.
absolutely. And so you go beat Oklahoma State on Wednesday. I think it's gonna be a hard fought game. But then you put yourself back and you're feeling good about your positioning as you head into February.
All right, brother. Get out of here. I know you're still up north. Get home safely. I am gonna
Thank
head
you.
to NFL game watch. Watch Brock Purdy and David Montgomery go at it tonight.
I've got a feeling. I'm not going to jinx him because I win either way if it's David or Brock. But I think we're going to have Brock Purdy representing Iowa State in the Super Bowl.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I like a -7, to be honest. I think they're gonna. I don't trust the Lions, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll eat
we'll
crow.
see. Yeah, it should be
The
fun.
history has
Man,
been very good with that take, so
yeah. Let's see
we'll
what
see how it goes.
happens. But yeah, hey, we'll chat about it on Wednesday.
All right, he's Brent Blum. I'm Chris Williams. Thanks for tuning in. As always, presented by our friends at Mechdyne and the Wild Rose Casino Studios. We are fueled each and every week by our friends at Cody Road Bourbon. We'll be back on Wednesday, and so long.